The radical left's agendas are challenging American values, but conservatives like you haven't forgotten what this country was built on. My friends, the Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard and to represent your values in the D.C. swamp. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome, it is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin, and we've got a lot to chat about. Well, Donald Trump, when he ran for president, what did he say to America? He promised he was going to be the law and order president. And he said he was going to secure the southern border. He said he was going to clean up the violent criminals that had come into this country that were illegal immigrants, the worst among us, the rapists, the child molesters, the sex traffickers, the human smugglers, the drug dealers, the murderers. The list goes on and on. The president has been doing that, even while Democrats are putting criminals and illegal immigrants ahead of American citizens. Now, I'm not even sure the president thought he was going to be able to secure the border the way that he has been able to do it in such a record-setting time. And one of the big perks of being able to secure the border so quickly is that the president of the United States of America said immediately, okay, what's next? Insert Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. crime is no doubt out of control. I've talked about this before. In D.C., I was there a couple weeks ago. And the doorman, the bellman, said to me, hey, I got there and they lost my bag. And I was like, great. I need like basic toiletries and stuff. So I was like, hey, is there like a Walgreens, CVS? Now, I want to let you understand something. I am 1.5 blocks from the White House. And he said, oh, up the corner, past Old Ebbitt, on the right up there, there's a CVS. Perfect. Go to the CVS. I get to the CVS and everything, and I mean everything, is locked up. They had the deodorant locked up that costs, I don't know, $4.86 for a stick of deodorant. That is how bad crime is in Washington, D.C., that you have to lock up deodorant. I then went over the toothpaste because I was going to get toothpaste. That was locked up as well. The toothbrushes were locked up. And then I needed a razor. They were locked up. You literally couldn't buy any toiletries that I needed without hitting a button and then an intercom system saying, customer needs help on aisle 4 at razors, or whatever it said, or deodorant. That is how out of control crime was in D.C. Now, who was committing the crimes? A lot of the crime was actually coming by juveniles. Juveniles had not been held accountable for their actions under Bowser. Now, you would think that Mayor Bowser would be in favor of having a safe city because she's the same woman that's obsessed with Black Lives Matter, right? That's the same city that painted a street Black Lives Matter going to the White House. This is a city, right, where Black Lives Matter was everything. Well, if Black Lives actually mattered, then you would probably try to, stop the murders and the killing and the beating and the attacks and the stealing from African Americans. If African Americans matter, you would think this would be a top priority, which is where we lead to Donald Trump's brilliance. Donald Trump understands that it's actually not that hard to fight crime. You catch criminals, you arrest them, you prosecute them, and you don't let them out of jail. Now, we know that George Soros and his money gave us a ton of what we would describe as activist DAs. I describe them as anarchists in law enforcement. Their job is simple. Let the criminals out. Don't hold them accountable. Don't even keep them in jail, even when they're committing heinous crimes. And empty out the prisons, because what Soros and the left want is prison reform and bail reform. They want to make sure that if you commit a crime and you have a certain skin color, especially, you're not held accountable. They want to make sure that if you commit a heinous crime and you're African American, you don't have a lot of money, that you can just disappear and walk straight out of that courtroom and give cashless bail, because they believe it's racist for you to have to put up money when you commit heinous crimes. This is the Democratic Party. And so what Donald Trump saw in Washington, D.C. was an opportunity. It wasn't just an opportunity to clean up D.C. You have to understand, Donald Trump was playing chess while these other idiot mayors were playing checkers. What Donald Trump understood is, number one, the city where our nation's capital is should be safe. We have millions and millions of tourists that go there. We have people that have to go to Washington, D.C. to do their job, if you were in Congress, for example. And so the president clearly understood that his goal was to clean up a city, and he knew he could do it with the help of law enforcement and allowing them to actually do their job. There was also a second part of the equation, and this goes back to playing chess while others are playing checkers. This is the art of the deal, is another way of putting it. The President of the United States of America also knew that if he wanted to prove a point that you can clean up cities like Memphis, my hometown, where I was born and raised, Chicago, St. Louis, New Orleans, Baltimore, New York City, New Jersey, San Francisco, L.A., Denver, Detroit, the list goes on and on of high crime major cities. Now, if there's one thing that's in common with all these high crime cities, they're all run by Democrats. They have the majority in the city council or the board of aldermen and the mayor's offices. Go look at the top 20 most dangerous cities in America, and they are all run by the Democratic Party. In fact, if you put into Google right now, top 20 most dangerous cities, go look at them from U.S. News. Look at the numbers. Look at what they tell you. The most dangerous cities, Memphis, number 1, Democratic run. St. Louis, number 2, run by Democrats. Little Rock, number 3, run by Democrats. Minneapolis, number 4, run by Democrats. Detroit, number 5, run by Democrat majority there. Kansas City, Democratic majority there. New Orleans, Democratic majority there at 7. Cleveland, Democratic majority there, number 8. Birmingham, Democratic majority city, number 9. And Houston comes in at number 10, Democratic run city. Milwaukee at 11, Democratic run city. Orlando, Democratic run city at 12. Like, you notice there's a trend here, right? There's a pattern here. Baltimore, 13 most dangerous city in America. What are they? Run by Democrats. Atlanta, run by Democrats, 14. Stockton, Democrats, run the place, 15. New York, 16, run by Democrats. Phoenix, run by Democrats at 17. Los Angeles at 18. Las Vegas at 19, all run by Democrats. And finally, Miami, run by Democrats. So if you look at the numbers, and that's not the murder rate, that was just dangerous cities. You go to the murder rate, same thing's going to happen, going to be very close in the same order that I just mentioned there. And so the President of the United States of America said, okay, if I can federalize and take over law enforcement and restore law and order very quickly in Washington, D.C., this is going to put Democrats on the defensive in all these other cities, because I'm going to make it clear in those other cities that I am willing to come in and do the same exact thing that we just did in D.C. With federal resources in your city, all you need is your mayor to say, please come and help. Now, I go back to my hometown where I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. You have a mayor there that will never allow for the National Guard to come in and help. He could have the city on fire, and I don't think he would do it. You could have riot and looting. I'm not sure he would do it, because in his minds, he hates Donald Trump more than he likes saving the lives of the citizens of his city. All of these other cities that I mentioned, you're dealing with the same exact thing. So then the question becomes, in these hardcore liberal cities, if you know that the President of the United States of America has come to town, and you know that when he has come to town or talking about your town, that he is offering you genuine help, and that your city actually could be incredibly safe, could be unbelievably safe, if your mayor would say, please help, Mr. President. How mad are you going to be? You witness what's happening in Washington, D.C. They haven't had a murder, I think it's in 6 or 7 days now. I want you to think about that. They haven't had a murder in 6 or 7 days. That is an unbelievable number. That is a number that even I think the president couldn't have imagined. I want you to listen to the president. as he was doing this walk, right? After D.C., he says, we're going to make other places safer. Why did he say it that way? He is telling the rest of the world, if you live in a city that is dangerous, I am here to help you. You're going to have to talk to your mayor and get him to do what's right for you. Listen to the president in his own words.
So many phone calls thanking me for what we've done in Washington, D.C., from people that haven't gone to a restaurant literally in 4 years. And they said, you know, what you've done it's unprecedented, because what they said it was just unsafe. We couldn't do it. We'd go out and you'd see the stories, you'd read the stories, you'd see all of the things that are happening. And they said we couldn't stand it, sir. And now I take my wife and my kids to dinner. One of them said he's gone out 4 nights in a row, and he hadn't gone out for 4 years. So it's a great tribute to you. And when I look at you people, I understand why, because there's no games, right? We're not playing games. We're going to make it safe. And we're going to then go on to other places. But we're going to stay here for a while. We want to make this absolutely perfect. It's our capital. And I guess it used to be many years ago safe, but it's certainly not had a very good run. And you got to be strong, you got to be tough, you got to do your job. Whatever it takes to do your job, you got to do your job. But the crime numbers are way down. I'm looking at, you saw some of the stats, they just read them out to me inside, the numbers that we haven't seen here ever. And I think it's probably, right now, to me, I feel very safe now, and I'm hearing people are very safe, but I know within 2 weeks it's going to be, Pam, it's going to be at a level that's even far superior.
The President of the United States of America is telling every liberal, dangerous city in America, I am here to help you. Why will Democrats not take him up on making their cities safer? Why would any mayor that has a dangerous city, one of the most deadly cities in America, I go back to my hometown of Memphis because I love my hometown, but people are fleeing left and right. Why would you not say, yes, Mr. President, let's be bipartisan this. Please come in and help me save black lives. Because I promise you that all the people on the city council in Memphis, and I know most of them, and the mayor, have all been up there yelling Black Lives Matter. They're the same people that walked out to the bridge and shut down the famous Memphis Bridge in the name of Black Lives Matter, with a guy, by the way, that had an arrest warrant out for him while the police were walking arm in arm with him as he was shutting down traffic illegally. You can't make it up. Why would you not, in that moment, why would you not say yes? Yes, Mr. President, I can put politics aside because I want to save black lives. The majority of the cities I mentioned earlier are majority African American cities. The majority of people that are killed in these cities are African Americans that are being killed in these cities. The majority of the victims of the most violent crimes are African American. The majority of the people that are being raped are African American. The majority of children that are being sexually abused are African American in these most dangerous cities. If black lives matter, then why would these mayors of these cities not say, Mr. President, we need your help. We're one of the most dangerous cities in America, and we want you to come in and do exactly what you just did that is working overwhelmingly in a city that is very much like ours, Washington, D.C. That's why the president said we're not done here yet. We're going to make it safe, and we're going to go other places, but we're going to stay here for a while. He's also sending the message that when it comes to law enforcement, you can't just come in and clean up and disappear. You have to have a presence. Quick break. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, we're less than a year from the 250th birthday of our great nation. But sadly, far too many have forgotten what this country stands for. Why? Because they forgot or were never even taught how this country was founded, why it was founded, and who founded it. If we lose our heritage, we lose America. That's why the Heritage Foundation needs your help. They've created a resource not just to ensure that patriots like you don't forget about the American founding, but to equip Americans with the facts they've never learned in school. This resource, Why the American Founding Matters, explores the question of why it's so important to study the American founding and why the founding still matters today. Folks, don't wait. Get your free copy of this essay today at heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Now, included in this resource is a comprehensive timeline of the American founding from 1774 to 1800. You need to read it, folks, and so does everyone you know. So go to heritage.org/LEVIN now. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. If you just joined us, we're talking about Donald Trump's brilliant move to make D.C. safer. I want to get your phone calls in here. Do you support the president doing this? And by the way, if you're living in one of the most dangerous cities in America and you're listening to the show right now, do you want help from the federal government to fight crime? Do you want the National Guard to be called in to your city? 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Now, let me also just say publicly what my piece of advice is for this White House right now. And I will say this to people I know there, but I want to say publicly with you guys right now, I think this is a major opportunity for President Trump to go into some of these liberal cities in the very near future with the data of how massive of a success Washington, D.C.'s cleanup has been, and go directly to the people in that city and tell the people in that city, you have to reach out to your city councilman. You have to reach out to your governor. You have to reach out to your mayor's office. You're going to have to demand that they ask for the help that you guys need to make your city safer. I think the president should go tour the top 20 most dangerous cities. I think he should sit there on stage with elected officials and call them out to their face in a very diplomatic way, because this doesn't need to come across as like, I'm right and you're wrong. It needs to come across with, I'm here to help. I am here to give you whatever you need to protect the black lives of your city that are getting destroyed by the violent criminals in your city. I go back to this. This is an African-American issue in the majority of these cities. And so if you want me to believe, Democrats, that you truly care about black lives, that you honestly care about saving black lives, by the way, especially young black lives, let's also remember how many young people are dying. How many young people are setting themselves up to just go to jail? Look at the number of violent criminals and the number of anarchists that we witness in Washington, D.C. The majority of the people that are doing a lot of these crimes and the shoplifting are actually under the age of 18. Why? I can tell you why. One reason and one reason only. They know they're not going to go to jail. They know that if they get caught, nothing was going to happen to them. Why else do you think this happened? Why else do you think that they did this? Well, let me also just explain to you how the gangs work so you understand. The gangs are really smart. They use young people under the age of 18 on purpose, and they use them because they know they won't be held accountable. I want you to just think about that. They know that they will not be held accountable for their actions. That's why they do it. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. We'll be right back.
How many founding fathers can you name? I bet most Americans can't name more than 2 or 3. Folks, if we forget the founding, our country's heritage, we risk losing our America as we know it. The Heritage Foundation needs your help, ensuring that the American founding and those who made it possible aren't forgotten. Their new resource, Why the American Founding Matters, explores why the American founding still matters in the 21st century and why it's so important that we study it. Without the unique principles that form the basis of our founding documents, the challenges of self-government, and the dedication dedication of our founding fathers. America as we know it could never have existed. So go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Get your copy of this important new essay from the Heritage Foundation, which includes a comprehensive timeline of the American founding from 1774 to 1800. There's too much at stake to not take action today, so please get your free copy at heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin.
Mark Levin, the George S. Patton of talk radio. Call him at 877-381-3811. That's 877-381-3811.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, and it is so nice to have you with us. By the way, if you want to call in, I'd love to talk to you. We're talking about Donald Trump and crime right now. 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. If you are in one of these high crime cities, do you want the president's help? That's what the president is clearly telegraphing right now. I'm doing it in D.C., and I'm willing to do this other places. Second thing, if you can't get through, you can always send me your thoughts on social media. I'm on X at Ben Ferguson Show, all right? I put a ton on to Facebook as well. Ben Ferguson, you can just put it in there. You'll see it pop up. And if you're on Instagram, we're using that a lot more. It is there at Ben Ferguson Podcast. And don't forget, I do a podcast. I'd love for you to follow me on my podcast, Ben Ferguson Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let me go back to the premise of what I was saying a moment ago. You step back and you look at this country right now. And it is very clear that every major city in America that's run by Democrats is a city that is filled with violent criminals. Many of them are filled with violent criminal illegal aliens. Many of them are filled with child rapists, sex offenders, and a network of drug cartel members. And by the way, I'm going to talk about the drug cartels and going after them because they've been designated terrorist organizations in a moment, something I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of going after them, and there's a very good chance that may be what the president's going to do in Mexico very, very soon. But they're filled with the lawlessness. This is the time where we as Republicans and conservatives, I think, have an opportunity to make real inroads in inner city America. We're overwhelming. They've been voting for Democrats for decades at 70, 80%. This is that moment where you can look at Washington, D.C. and show them that there is an actual chance of safe and secure neighborhoods, regardless of where you live, if you restore the law and order. And then once you get that safety and you get that security, you're then in a much better place. Because at that point, you have citizens that start to be inspired to go out in their communities, to be involved in their communities. By the way, you know what? There's two things that are very interesting about crime. If you're in a high crime area, did you know that it's almost guaranteed that your kids are in a failing school? Yeah. If black lives really matter to the Democratic Party like they claim, then they would want young black lives to not be set up for failure, but set up for success in a public school that is not a failure. By the way, this is also the reason why I'm in favor of school choice. You may not know this, but did you know if you're in a high crime city, not only are you more likely to be in a failing school than a successful school, but you're also more likely to, let me rephrase that. You're less likely to go to church. You look at the most high crime cities in America and look at the church attendance numbers, they are in historic declines. Why is that? Because you killed community. It used to be you walked to church in your neighborhood with your family, your friends, your neighbors. If you live in a violent city, in a violent neighborhood, the chances of you knowing your neighbors, going out with your neighbors, spending time with your neighbors, spending time in a community, spending time outside of your home with your family is very low. And if you want to know why we have so many empty churches on Sunday mornings in some of these violent cities, yes, there is a direct correlation between failing schools and lack of faith in America in cities where there is crime and the criminals are running the city. There are some of the most beautiful churches that 70, 80% empty on Sunday mornings in these violent cities. because the elderly, by the way, who I truly believe the elders, there's a reason why we have elders in the church, are the backbone of our community. They're the backbone of our churches, the elder statesmen. And if they're afraid to go to church because they're afraid of the crime and they don't feel safe in their own neighborhood, and they don't feel safe to go to church, they don't feel safe to go to the grocery stores, what happens? They end up becoming depressed, they end up sitting in their homes, and they end up dying like hermits. Crime isn't just killing people, it's killing cities, it's killing hopes, it's killing dreams, it's killing education, it's killing faith in America today. And so what the president, I encourage him to do is to keep doing what he's doing, number one, but to go to these cities regardless of what the local leaders say and talk to the people directly in these top 20 most dangerous cities. Do a tour of America's worst cities. And don't walk in and criticize. Walk in and say, life should be better than this. Life should be safer for you and your grandparents and your kids. Our churches and our schools should be places that people can't wait to go to. Your children should be able to play in your backyard and your front yard and not be behind bars on the windows because it's so crime-ridden. Your kids should be able to sit on the front porch at night and not be inside in case there's a drive-by shooting. Yes, that's a reality in many of the most dangerous cities in America. I don't care who you are. You know if you're not safe. Can I get an amen on that? You know that if you are in an unsafe area, you know if you're in a community that is not safe. You know it. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. You know how many people are stuck in a neighborhood that they wish they didn't live in because they're on a fixed income, they're retired, they're in Social Security, they lived their life, they did well, and unfortunately now they live in a community that they can't afford to get out of? And so they're stuck literally in hell? This is not hard to fix. Let me give you some stats to prove my point. D.C. violent crime has dropped 22% after Trump's crackdown. They've had 0 homicides in the last week. I'm going to read you this article. And every American, by the way, I will repost this article on my X account, at Ben Ferguson Show. I'll put it up on Instagram. Follow me. At Ben Ferguson Podcast. And I'll put these stats in my podcast so you can share it. But here are the stats. Violent crime in D.C. has dropped 22% over the last week following Trump's crackdown in the city, the article says. Fox News Digital detailed the stunning findings, which include the fact that as of Wednesday afternoon, there were not 1, not 2, not 3, not 10, not 15, not 20, but 0 murders in Washington, D.C. over the last 7 days. That is a feat that has not been seen for months. Fox News Digital also cited a few other stunning statistics from the local police union, revealing that since Trump's federal takeover, carjackings have dropped by 83%. Robberies have dropped by 46%. 0 murders in D.C. during the past week. The White House officials' rapid response page also shared the news, detailing the, quote, dramatic reductions in crime. Here's a local report about it.
When the National Guard hit the ground in Washington last week, that city's crime fight went into overdrive. And now we're seeing the impact and the dramatic reductions in crime.
When the National Guard rolled into Washington last week, the locals seemed skeptical.
The crime is minimal here. There's not really a lot of crime here. It looks like window dressing to me.
But with the Guard on the ground, crime is on the decline. For the first time in a long time, D.C. has gone 7 days without a homicide. And that's not all. Carjackings are down 83%. Robberies are down 46%. Car thefts down 21%. And overall violent crime is down 22%.
When you have these kind of numbers going down, it basically says this is a success, and that means people feel safer.
Like many big cities, Washington's police department is critically short-staffed.
People who don't feel safe aren't free.
Sergeant Betsy Smith with the National Police Association says it is ripe for federal help.
More police generally equals less crime.
More police, what an idea. More police generally means less crime. This is not hard to figure out. Why would all these other cities not want Donald Trump's help? Forget the mayors, forget the politics. Why would any city right now not be screaming, Mr. President, please help us. We need the National Guard. Send them in. We want our carjackings down 83%. We want robberies down 46%. We want car theft down 21%. We want overall violent crime down 22%. That is in a 7-day period. This is the dramatic reduction in crime. And these numbers do seem shocking to me. I also want to be clear about that. And probably it's because we've been living in such an abusive relationship in these big cities for so long that it seems impossible to stop the violent crime. When you grow up in a violent city, one of the most violent cities in America, it's an abusive relationship. I grew up in Memphis. I say it again. I love my city. I really do. But I can tell you this, I wouldn't tell anybody to move there right now. In fact, I tell most of my friends when we talk about this stuff, get out. It's not worth your family's life. It's not worth living in fear. When I moved out of Memphis, I moved from one of the most dangerous cities in America, the murder capital of America, to one of the safest cities in all of America. And you want to know what happened? It took me about 60 days to figure out just how much my life was consumed with thinking about safety. About 6 months in, I actually forgot to lock my door one night at my house, and I laughed the next morning because there's no way in hell I would ever do that in Memphis, Tennessee. Like it would, that accident doesn't happen in Memphis, Tennessee. The idea of not locking your door would not be an option when you live in a violent city. And if you're listening to me right now and you live in one of those cities, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you understand it. You're like, yeah, there's no way in hell. When I was a little boy, we went to Baltimore, North Dakota to see my great-grandmother. And when you grow up in Memphis, there's a lot of rules. My dad was, by the way, in law enforcement. So there was like, he knew, and we knew just how dangerous the city was. And I remember going to Baltimore, North Dakota to see my great-grandmother. She was, I think, in her 80s at the time. And we got there, and there was two things as a little child I'll never forget. Number one, they always left the keys and the ignition in the car in the driveway. No one was stealing cars in Baltimore, North Dakota. They had a real sense of community. Number two, and this is even more important, they had a community where everybody walked and everybody went to church. When you have a safe city, you have a real community. People don't stay in their houses and lock their doors. They go outside and they have an open door policy to their family, their friends, and their neighbors. And the most amazing thing that ever happened when I was a little kid, it was one of those moments that, like, they say is a core memory, was when I was there, my great-grandmother looked at me. And I was a little kid, my sister was little, and she handed us money, and she said, you guys walk down the store and go get yourself some candy. And my parents said, yeah, y'all go down there. We looked at my mom and my dad like they were insane. You wouldn't. When I lived in Memphis, my mom would walk out into the street to watch me walk down to our neighbor's house to make sure I made it safely, and I wasn't allowed to walk home until I called so they could walk outside and watch me walk back down the street. And those same parents are telling me in Baltimore, North Dakota, you can go to the grocery store and go shopping by yourself. I was like, what? I didn't even know what drugs were. I was so young, but I knew something wasn't right. Wouldn't it be nice if we got back to that way of life? And the President of the United States of America is telling every one of these cities, you can do this. We are ready to do it with you. We are ready to help you. And the only thing that's holding these cities back is the arrogance of the Democratic Marxists and Socialists and Communists that are running these cities. They would rather their constituents live in fear. They would rather them OD on fentanyl. They would rather them be raped. They would rather them be shot. They'd rather them be murdered than to actually work with Donald Trump. Because Orange Man apparently is so bad that they just can't work with him. 1-877-381-3811. 3811, 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. Follow me on X. You can send me all your comments during the break at Ben Ferguson Show. If you're on Instagram, at Ben Ferguson Podcast. And on Facebook, just Ben Ferguson put in. I'll read them all during the break. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, we're less than a year from the 250th birthday of our great nation. But sadly, far too many have forgotten what this country stands for. Why? Because they forgot or were never even taught how this country was founded, why it was founded, and who founded it. If we lose our heritage, we lose America. That's why the Heritage Foundation needs your help. They've created a resource not just to ensure that patriots like you don't forget about the American founding, but to equip Americans with the facts they've never learned in school. This resource, Why the American Founding Matters, explores the question of why it's so important to study the American founding and why the founding still matters today. Folks, don't wait. Get your free copy of this essay today at heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Now, included in this resource is a comprehensive timeline of the American founding from 1774 to 1800. You need to read it, folks, and so does everyone you know. So go to heritage.org/LEVIN now. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. I want to get to your phone calls, get some of your reaction to the big news. And for the first time in a long time, because of Donald Trump's leadership, D.C. crime has gone 7 days without a homicide. Carjackings down 83%, robberies down 46%, car thefts down 21%, and overall violent crime is down 22%. And the president has said it. I am here to help. There are other cities. If you want our help, I am here to help. 1-800 or 1-877-381-3811, 1-877-381-3811. All right, Mr. Producer, where do you want me to go first? There's a lot of names up there. You tell me. All right, let's go to David. You're in one of the most dangerous cities in America, Denver, Colorado. Nice to have you with us on the Mark Levin Show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ben. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for guest hosting for the great one. And yes, this is one of the worst crime cities in America. I've been working on a project for 11 years called Race City, Colorado, where we're going to build a brand new city to replace Denver. Denver is number one in auto theft, number one in bank robberies, number one in cocaine use, number one in package theft. We are number two in property crime. We are the third least safe state in America. We are number 5 in drug use and addiction. We're the worst state, number 5 worst state to drive in, and we're the 19th freest state in America. And we have the number 8 most homeless, and we have the number 10 highest rate of human trafficking. That's Denver, Colorado, thanks to Mike Johnston. And, I've been working on this project for 11 years, so I know all the stats. I've done all the research. We've done all of the programmatic and planning to build Race City to replace Denver, because Denver and this crime does 3 things. I call it BET. It destroys your business, it destroys your entertainment, and it destroys your tourism, which has destroyed the tax base here in Denver, and that's why they're running huge deficits, Ben.
Well, and not only that, you guys are spending a bunch of money on illegal immigrants, putting illegal immigrants ahead of American citizens. That's the truth. Never, ever, ever forget that as well, David. And I go back to this. If you're in Denver, why on earth would you want Donald Trump to call in the National Guard? We'll be right back.
This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. is here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hour 2, Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you, and it's so nice to have you with us this evening as we continue to talk about some big breaking news. Not only is crime down in Washington, D.C., and I'll continue to take your phone calls on that. I'll ask the same question I asked earlier. If you live in one of the most dangerous cities in America, do you want your mayor to say yes to working with Donald Trump, yes to bringing in the National Guard, yes to fighting crime the way they are in Washington, D.C.? 1-877-381-3811. Now, if you can't get through, you can send me your thoughts on this on X. Follow me there, at Ben Ferguson Show. If you're on Instagram, follow me there. I put up a lot of really good stuff. I'd love to keep in touch with you there, at Ben Ferguson Podcast. And don't forget, I do a podcast, so if you'll listen, I'd love for you to. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Now, I want to put something else on your radar screen, and it's probably something that you've not heard about, because the media doesn't want to talk about this story. Top IRS lawyer under Donald Trump pledged to, quote, resist the president. We now know he is apparently a former Democratic aide. Quote, screw going high, pack the court, argued this IRS lawyer. Anthony Sacco. He is a top IRS lawyer involved in, quote, high-level policy interpretations and has advocated action to resist President Trump and holds radical far-left policy positions, pushing for Democrats to abolish prisons, for example. And anytime you don't get the ruling you want at the Supreme Court, just pack the court to, quote, defy Trump. Anthony Sacco is an attorney for the powerful IRS Office of Chief Counsel. He's openly advocated for far-left positions for years prior to joining the agency. This coming from a Daily Wire review of his social media that has been found. Sacco, who holds a key role in interpreting complicated federal tax law, has called for people to, quote, resist the GOP and attacked the police. Sounds exactly like what you would get in the Democratic Party from socialists, communists, and Marxists, right? Now, Sacco has co-authored multiple revenue rulings, including as recently as April the 17th of this year. That would be 3 months into the Trump administration. Revenue rulings are official IRS interpretations of how tax laws are applied in specific situations and impact how government officials, tax professionals, and also you, the taxpayers, maintain compliance with federal law. Now, before joining the IRS in September of 2022, by the Biden administration, Sacco worked under the Oregon Democratic Senator Ron Wyden for the Senate Finance Committee. That's according to his own LinkedIn profile. His social media activity demonstrated a strong opposition to President Trump and his administration. In 2020, for example, he attacked Republicans ahead of the Senate vote to confirm Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, saying this: the Republican Party has completely obliterated principles, integrity, and norms. Screw going high, pack the court. Hashtag resist, hashtag GOP, hashtag election, hashtag vote, hashtag pack the court. Now, shortly after all of this came out, the Daily Wire reached out to Sacco for comment on his previous views. What did he do? Exactly what liberals always do. He locked his X account, restricted who can see his posts, but not before the Daily Wire archived and saved all of them. Sacco did not respond to the inquiry. Briefed on the post by the Daily Wire, Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton said Sacco should be fired immediately. With deep state leftists in its leadership, it's no wonder the IRS has repeatedly targeted conservatives and conservative organizations, Cotton said to Daily Wire. This individual should be fired immediately. Sacco is currently one of the main attorneys, like not low level, not mid level, one of the top dogs, right? The main attorneys in the IRS Chief Counsel Office, who specializes in looking at pass-through businesses, a tax structure where owners are taxed at the individual rate than corporate levels. The revenue ruling he drafted in April, for example, withdrew one he had written under Biden, which increased regulations on certain business partnerships. It was based on an executive order from Trump ordering his administration to cut unnecessary regulations, meaning an advocate for resisting Trump was left responsible for putting his orders into effect. According to one senior Republican aide who worked on finance issues in the Senate, Sacco's office was viewed as a politicized office in the financial policy world. It was, for example, behind plans that would supercharge the IRS beyond its current form. The aide pointed to the IRS push for a, quote, direct file program that was approved by the chief counsel's office during the Biden administration, which Republicans argued would have turned the IRS into a tax preparer, tax collector, and tax enforcer. The idea that a far-left resistor who helped the Biden's IRS set policy is now setting policy for Trump is deeply concerning, the aide told the Daily Wire, adding that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, should clean house to get his, politicization of the office out. Here's something else that was said. I'm not surprised. He said those far-left things because that's how this is operated, how the chief counsel's office has operated, the aide added. We shouldn't trust left-wing ideologues at the IRS in light of their weaponization of the agency during the Obama and also the Biden administrations. Now, outside, by the way, of social media, Sacco helped prepare a lengthy academic article arguing that prison should be abolished. It was published by the Harvard Law Review. In the foreword, the primary author argued that, quote, white supremacy is deeply woven into the fabric of every legal institution in the United States of America. So, in other words, if you're black, you should be able to commit any crime and not have to worry about the consequences, apparently, based on what the Harvard Law Review has. In a post discussing his work on the project, Sacco contemplated the future of criminal justice in America by writing this. It was truly amazing to work with Professor Roberts and my fellow RAs on this piece over the past summer. It's not easy to imagine a society without prisons, but I look at the prison system and mass incarceration completely differently now, after this experience. The author of the article also wrote that there is, quote, good reason to renounce the Constitution because constitutional law has been critical to upholding the interests of the radical capitalist regime while advancing legal theories that justifies its inhumanity. The article that he was a part of also said this. Indeed, it is the realization that white supremacy is deeply woven into the fabric of every legal institution in the United States and upheld by the U.S. constitutional law that made me an abolitionist in the first place, the author added. Sacco, by the way, also frequently posts anti-police messages on his account, including a call for the Colin Kaepernick kneel guy. You remember that guy, Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback that kneeled during the national anthem? Yeah, that guy, to, quote, abolish the white supremacist institution of policing. And another post that claimed policing is based on race and that the job itself is racist if you are a policeman. So how does that work, just out of curiosity, if you're like Asian or Hispanic or black? Like, are you a racist cop if you were those races? Like, I'm just asking for a friend. I want to know. Sacco's account, by the way, now locked because this is what the left does, right? They get caught saying what they believe, and then they shut it down. They don't stand by it. No, we're gonna lock it down. And states he's currently focused on tax policy, racial and criminal justice. The IRS, by the way, has not responded to requests for comment on Sacco's status at the agency. And this goes back to the point that I said earlier. In 2016, I don't think Donald Trump understood just how many people hated him. I don't think he realized how much the deep state had dug into our government. This guy's a great example of that. And how many people are like, we can just undermine Donald Trump anytime we want to. Like, we don't have to worry about Donald Trump. We will just wait him out. We'll undermine every single thing that he does. And when we do that, then we will still win eventually because we're not going anywhere. That, my friends, is the problem with all of this. You have these radicals that are in our government, these extremists in our government, and they say these things openly. I want you to just think about the arrogance of this top person. You have an individual here that is so arrogant, that is so cocky, that he's willing to write this down and put it online for anyone to read it for years. But as soon as he gets caught by the masses, he felt, let me rephrase that. He felt comfortable enough to write it. He felt comfortable enough to put it out there, thinking that he could claim he's some, nonpartisan IRS agent, when in reality he hates conservatives. He's an extreme radical, a hardcore leftist, at an organization that has been weaponized to go after conservatives. When I tell you stories like this, I mean it. You don't hate the left enough right now. Because what I can tell you is they hate you. They hate your family values. They hate your faith. They hate who you vote for, and they want to undermine it, and they want to silence you, and they want you to become extinct. And oh, by the way, they also want you to be poor. They don't want you to succeed. They don't want your kids to succeed. They want to destroy your way of life. Never, ever, ever forget that. 1-877-381-3811, 1-877-381-3811. Don't forget, I do a podcast. I'd love for you to grab it during the break. It's the Ben Ferguson Podcast. Download it wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. It is so nice to have you with us tonight, and the great one will be back with you, manana. All right. An appeals court, and this is big news. A New York appeals court has thrown out a $500 million penalty against Donald Trump. Letitia James, that crazy, insane civil case. It's another story and another big victory for the President of the United States of America. The court ruled that this was an excessive fine that actually violated the 8th Amendment. Yes, it violated it. And that's exactly why they said no. The appellate court throwing out the $500 million civil fraud penalty against the sitting president in this, quote, high-profile case brought by that radical leftist New York Attorney General. Now, remember, when she was running for office, what did she say she was going to do? She was going to make sure that Donald Trump knew her name. She said, if you vote for me, I'm going after Donald Trump. And that's exactly what she did. And when she went after Donald Trump, she also fundraised off of it, saying, give me your money. I'm the one trying to lock up Donald Trump. Well, now we have real justice. The New York Appellate Division overturning the penalty, ruling that this was egregious. It was an excessive fine that clearly violates the 8th Amendment. The 5-member panel all upheld findings that Trump and his companies were liable, affirming that James acted within her authority and that this injunctive relief to curb Trump's organization practices, as they described it, were appropriate. Now remember, this is a liberal court. But here's the other part that you need to understand. The ruling leaves liability intact but eliminates the massive financial penalty of $364 million plus interest, which actually rises to around $500 million. Trump took to Truth Social to declare, quote, a total victory and railed against James and the original trial judge. You may remember him as Arthur. James claimed a win too, of course, because the left always does that, noting that the appeals court upheld the findings of fraud and restrictions on Trump's businesses, and she pledged to appeal the penalty decision. Total victory, she said, is fake news. Yes, Trump, there you go. That's who she's going after. Here's the other thing that was interesting. Listen carefully. Quote, I greatly respect the fact the court had the courage to throw out this unlawful and disgraceful decision that was hurting businesses all throughout New York State. Others were afraid to do business there. The amount, including interest and penalties, was over $550 million. It was a political witch hunt, the president said, in a business sense, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. The court, by the way, agreed with the president on that. Trump also blasted the case as election interference, saying it was tried during the 2024 presidential campaign, locking him up in court instead of out on the campaign trail. He also praised Justice David Friedman, who issued a partial dissent. Friedman wrote that James' true aim was political and argued the entire case should be dismissed. He said her ultimate goal was not market hygiene, but political hygiene, ending with the derailment of President Trump's political career and the destruction of his real estate business. Friedman also blasted James' use of Section 6312 of New York's executive law, which gives the state attorney general broad power to pursue civil fraud claims. He wrote that it was unprecedented and political, giving James essentially limitless power to prosecute her political opponents, which, if you go back to her own words, that's what she said she was going to do. Elect me, vote for me, keep me in office, send me your money, and I'm going to lock up Donald Trump and his family. Friedman wrote that Trump's business deals involved sophisticated parties, who, by the way, profited without harming the public, and concluded he would reverse the judgment and dismiss the complaint. Now, Section 6312 has never been used in the way it is being used in this case. He continued to write, namely to attack successful, private commercial transactions, negotiated at arm's length between highly sophisticated parties, fully capable of monitoring and defending their own interests. Friedman continued, all parties to these private transactions profited handsomely from the deals, from which there were no negative effects on the public interest. So this was one of those like victimless crimes. No one was hurt. Everybody made money. And what did they do? They went after the President of the United States of America instead. It's disgusting. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. We'll be right back.
How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
The Mark Levin Show, live and national at 877-381-3811.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. I want to get to some of your phone calls. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Let me bring another issue to the table real quick. The Biden administration, we're now learning, packs swing states with over 1 million illegal aliens. Why? Solely for a power grab. In just 2 years into his first term as president, President Joe Biden's border policies helped welcome more than 1 million illegal aliens to the nation's electoral swing states, and additionally some 450,000 illegal aliens into Texas alone. The latest Pew Research Center estimates specifically look at the rate at which Biden increased the illegal alien population in a 2-year window, from 2021 to 2023. Notably, the Biden administration packed swing states with more than 1 million illegal aliens during those 2 years, with likely many more resettling in such states from 23 through 2024. In particular, the swing state of Florida saw its illegal alien population grow by a staggering 700,000 in just 2 years under President Biden. Another example of just how much they wanted to pack this country with illegal immigrants to change the electoral map completely is Georgia. Georgia, not even close to the border with Mexico, well, their illegal alien population grew by more than 100,000. Pennsylvania and Michigan each added at least 80,000 illegal aliens to their resident populations in 2021 and 2022. North Carolina is another great example as a swing state, added 100,000 plus illegal aliens from 2021 and 2022. And Ohio adding almost 75,000 more as well. Arizona added 50,000 illegal aliens in the 2 years of the first 2 years of Biden administration. Nevada and Wisconsin each absorbed 30,000 illegal aliens during that first 2 years. Colorado, which has rapidly turned blue in the last decade, saw more than 40,000 illegal aliens added to its population in 2021 and 2022. If you look at the total population of some of these states, this is a massive increase. And then look at New Hampshire, for example. They have a population of 1.4 million. They added more than 10,000 illegal aliens in the first 2 years of the Biden administration. Now, why is this so significant? The Biden administration knew what they were doing, and they knew they were overseeing a massive surge of illegal aliens in non-border states that would help them when it came to redistricting and to how many representatives different states receive based on population. They knew that illegal immigrants were going to be counted in the census, and that's exactly why. When the barbed wire was put down at the southern border in Texas, Joe Biden sent in what? Forklifts to raise it up to allow more illegals into the country. You look at illegal aliens in New Jersey, for example, which election predators say could become a swing state over the next 10 years. And Texas, a GOP stronghold that Democrats have long sought to flip to their side. Texas alone, during the first 2 years of the Biden administration, absorbed about 500,000 illegal aliens in just the first 2 years under Biden. Now, New Jersey saw an influx of more than 150,000 illegal aliens during that same period. The Pew Research Center estimates that the illegal alien population also hit a record in 2023 under Biden at more than 14 million. Now, again, this was in 2023. Scholarly estimates from years prior suggest the illegal alien population today in 2025 is well above 22 million, which brings us back to reality. Why is Donald Trump doing so much to secure the border? And why is Donald Trump doing so much to make sure the census doesn't count illegal aliens? And why is Donald Trump doing so much to make sure that illegal immigrants are not given the right to vote so that they alter and change our elections? Because he understands what the Biden administration was trying to do. They were trying to pack swing states with well over 1 million illegal aliens from day one of the Biden administration within the first 2 years. And what happened after we had an open border policy during those first 2 years? They then rolled out the red carpet for illegal aliens. They started giving them hotel rooms and credit cards and cell phones and food. They started giving them everything to entice them to flood America. Now, you may ask yourself this question. Why do we not have the numbers after 2022? Because there's so many people we're trying to count. There are so many illegal immigrants that are in this country, which goes back to what Donald Trump has been saying since the very beginning. If you don't have a secure border, you don't have a country. And now we understand the plan. The Biden administration said, let's pack the swing states just like we want to pack the Supreme Court. And then we'll give them amnesty, and they'll vote for us forever. And that's exactly why Donald Trump is fighting it so hard right now. I want to get your phone calls. 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for Mark Levin. Let's get some of your phone calls in here. Mr. Producer, where do you want me to go first? Let's go to Susan in New York. Welcome. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. So nice to have you with us. Hi.
I always love hearing you. I'm going to get involved with your podcast there. But I wanted to just say, I spent like 30 or 40 years in Brooklyn and New York City under Giuliani and, before, first Koch and then Giuliani, Bloomberg, which was great. And then the downfall after, how fast it could go down. But it brings me back to a time that I don't think most people even really think about. But I lived in outside Detroit. My dad was in the auto industry in my high school years in the 70s. And how dangerous. I mean, one time we went, with my friends to a Tigers game and we got lost. And I thought I was going to die that night. We somehow got out of it. But what happened over a few decades was that Detroit got so bad from all the corruption, lawlessness, undereducation, drug. I mean, it was bedlam. And then, like in 2014, so 100 miles or more was demolished of these towns like Warren, maybe Hamtramck. I can't remember all of them, but like just close to where General Motors headquarters was. And it demolished. People fled the city. Their mortgages were underwater, which John Catsimatidis has talked about. He said, if things get so bad and your mortgage is underwater and the crime is so bad, people just picked up and left their homes. People need to really, you can go on, you can read about this. This didn't happen 100 years ago, 50 years ago. This happened, over just when the downward spiral starts, it can end up like that. And God forbid, Queens, Brooklyn, if this. I mean, what do you think? Do you think?
Well, look, this is all being done on purpose, and it's what I've said for a long time. It's all being done on purpose. And if people don't understand that, then you're stupid. And they understood what they were doing. This was not an accident. There was clearly a well-thought-out, deliberate plan to totally remake the United States of America. One of the things that I think people didn't pay attention to in all that we're describing right now is, and this is honestly a really important one, they understood that the illegal immigrants they were allowing to come into this country were coming from either countries filled with corruption and crime. So they just wanted out and they wanted a better life. And they knew they'd have no problem advocating for the Democratic Party, especially as the Democratic Party was moving to socialism and communism, because people grew up under it. And our form would look so much better than where they came from. If you flood this country with 22 million people that grew up under socialism or communism or dictators and tyrants, the way they would sell the Democratic Party would look amazing. And if you give them amnesty, then they're going to vote for you forever. It's called buying votes. It's the easiest way I can describe it. It is buying votes. And that's exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to buy votes. And they said, bring them in. And how did they entice them? They gave them everything. You want to stay in a 4-star hotel? Yeah, come on to New York City. You want a credit card and we'll pay for your stuff? Sure, no problem. Come on down. We would absolutely love for you to be in America. You want food stamps? We got you covered. There's no problem here. We would love to have you. This is the problem with the Democratic Party. You are it is filled with Marxists, socialists, and communists. I look at the guy running in New York City. I have no doubt he's going to win. The reason why I think he's going to win is because I think all of the sane people have basically left during the lockdowns of COVID. You don't have enough conservative voters there anymore to tackle a declared socialist, a communist who believes in and doesn't believe in personal rights or even personal property rights, believes the state should be in charge of everything. The state should be in charge of grocery stores. The state should be in charge of businesses. He believes that everyone that's rich is evil except for his parents, which will bail him out if anything doesn't happen in his life. This guy's like never really even held a job. And he's even admitted that, like, if his social experiment doesn't work, like in his own life, his parents will bail him out. So he's in favor of the rich people as long as they're in his family, which is, by the way, have you ever met a leader that is poor in the communist, socialist, or Marxist movement? No, they're always well taken care of. Hell, look at Vladimir Putin last week. He doesn't have any wants. He doesn't have any needs. Like, he's loving this right now. He's got everything he needs. He doesn't care who suffers or dies in the cold winters or in the war with Ukraine. Because that is exactly what they do. It's exactly what they believe in. It's exactly what they want to happen. They want people to be poor. They want them to not be, not just, let me rephrase that. It's not even that they want them to be poor. They want them to be dependent on their government. And poor people don't rise up often. They don't organize well. You have to understand that. They don't organize well at all. 1-877-381-3811, 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. You can follow me on Instagram at Ben Ferguson Podcast and on X, Ben Ferguson Show, or on Facebook, Ben Ferguson. And don't forget, grab my podcast, the Ben Ferguson Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. It is nice to have you with us. I want to get some of your phone calls in here. 1-877-381-3811. Also, if you're on social media, I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram at Ben Ferguson Podcast, on X, Ben Ferguson Show, and on Facebook, just Ben Ferguson there. All right, let's get to your phone calls now. Andy in New Jersey, you are on the Mark Levin Show. Hi.
Yeah, hi. How are you, Mr. Ferguson?
Doing well, sir.
Real quick, the main point I wanted to make is I'm not sure I understand. I mean, I'm against illegal immigration, but why would an immigrant who came here, not the ones with bad intentions, but who came here, would want this country to go down the way that country they came from is, that they're striving for a better life. So why would they want this country to go downhill? I don't quite understand.
I don't think it's that. Great question. So let me explain what I mean by this. If you grew up in a system where let's use religion for a minute, Andy. If your parents are Catholic, the chance is you're going to be what? Catholic. If your parents grow up Presbyterian, you're probably going to be what? Presbyterian. If your parents are Baptist, you're probably going to be what? Baptist. If your parents are agnostic, you're probably going to be what? Agnostic. Like, there's a trend here, right? Like, so if you grow up in a country where socialism is there, you may hate the leaders, but the idea of socialism is probably not something you're going to just be have complete disdain from, right? So if you come to America and they're like, oh, well, in America we're the Democratic Party and we're disguising our socialism or Marxism or communism, and the ideals that they're advocating for are, and that your way of life and what you make here is just far higher than what you are there. I'll give you a great example. I was down in Mexico for summer vacation. And we were at a very nice resort, and the guy that was driving us, the shuttle driver around the resort, got to have a rapport with him after 3 or 4 days. I like to meet, talk to people. And he basically told me at some point that his daily salary was $8. You bring that guy to America? Can you imagine? Like $8. He comes into America, he's making more than that an hour. And then you have a party, the Democratic Party, that gives him amnesty. You think he's not going to vote for that party? You get what it's like communism in disguise. But even if they're like, we're going to give you free food, like, why would you not be in favor of that? We're going to give you free housing. Why would you not be in favor of that? Like, especially coming from Mexico where you're doing the right thing and you're making $8 a day plus tips. So, I mean, it's you see how easy it would be to fall back into it because it looks so much better than what you're coming from. You get my point?
I do. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. There's a follow-up what that lady said in Michigan. Detroit has Michigan Station, which is the Grand Central station of Michigan. It was closed for 30 years until Ford bought it and rehabilitated it. That just happened, and there was no rush hour in Detroit for years because there's no work.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
No, great point, and I appreciate the phone call. Thank you, sir. It's good to talk to you. 1-877-381-3811. Let's go to line 4 in Arkansas. John in Mountain Home. John, I love Mountain Home. I've been there several times. Nice to talk with you.
Yeah, this is a great thing. But, Ben, I got the idea. Wasn't English the official language 250 years ago? Why don't we make it no entry, no English? If you can't
I don't like that. I don't like that because I've been to other countries where I didn't know their language, and if you go to study and you work hard, I don't have an issue with you coming to America and you trying to better yourself as long as you come in the right way. Okay, I don't want a litmus test for voting, for example. Remember, that's what Democrats wanted to do with African Americans back in the day, that you were less than, that you weren't a full, human, you weren't a fully valued person. That's what the Democratic Party was in favor of. And so they didn't want to count people of a certain skin color in a certain way. I don't want to ever go back to anything like that where we say, well, you can't do this because you can't speak the way I speak, right? All I'm in favor of, John, is coming here the legal way. There's a lot of great stories of people that came to America not knowing English, and they learned it, but they did it the right way. The difference is the Republican Party is the party of law and order, and the Democratic Party is the party of anarchy and chaos. Just look at the cities they run. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you, and it's so nice to have you with us tonight. The Great One will be back with you tomorrow night. I got to tell you, there's certain days when I love Donald Trump. Promises made, promises kept. That, for me, is the theme of Donald Trump's time in office so far. The Trump administration, we're now being told, is on pace to deport 400,000 illegal immigrants in 1 year. The Trump administration is deporting about 1,500 people per day and is on track to deport more than 400,000 people in his first year in office. The New York Times is now reporting. Now, of course, they're criticizing the president for doing it. That's how you know the president's doing a damn good job. At least 180,000 people have been deported by Immigrations and Customs Enforcement under President Donald Trump. The Times states deportations have increased as ICE got a massive increase in funding from the big, beautiful bill that was signed into law. Again, the bill that they said was going to ruin America. So much for that lie. At its current pace, ICE would deport more than 400,000 people. That is a sharp increase from the 271,000 people removed last year by ICE, though far short of the goal of 1 million set by the Trump administration. Now, the Department of Homeland Security says the total number of deportations so far under Trump is 322,000. That figure includes people who are turned around or quickly deported at the U.S. borders by Customs and Border Protection, the Times also states. ICE is using 12 charter planes per day. If that's not taxpayer money used the right way, I don't know what is. To conduct deportations and transport detainees, that's double the number used in January, according to Tom Cartwright, an immigration advocate who is tracking the ICE flights. Yes, they're angry. There are more than 60,000 people in custody, the Times reported. ICE has added at least 50 new detention centers since Trump took office as well, and more than 6,000 people being held there. The White House for months has emphasized the administration's broader strategy on immigration, as the deportation tally has ticked upward. Through its Project Homecoming initiative, announced in May, the administration has offered financial incentives and streamlined processes to encourage voluntary departures with aggressive enforcement measures for those who remain. That according to a White House fact sheet that was put out. In public messaging, officials have described the deportation campaign as historic, an aggressive effort, highlighting record-breaking numbers of arrests, an expanded capacity for detaining and removing undocumented immigrants. So here we are, the President of the United States of America promising to clean up the immigration problem in this country. And what we're witnessing right now is the Trump administration is on pace to deport more than 400,000 people in year one. This is also happening as liberals are fighting every time they get a chance to stop the president and ICE from doing their jobs. Could the numbers go up? Yes. Could they go even higher next year? Yes. One thing is for sure. The president is sending a message that while he's in office, well, what happened under Joe Biden will never happen again. Let's get some of your phone calls. 1-877-381-3811, 1-877-381-3811. Let me go to Michael, line 2 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hello.
Thank you for taking my call, Ben. I listen to you on Sunday nights before Billy Cunningham, and I always like it when you fill in for Mark, so it's nice. I have a two-part question. No problem. Number one, with everything being behind plexiglass in cities like, D.C. and New York, how does Mom Donnie expect to implement this free grocery store thing, or this government-run grocery store? Is he going to have security in there? Because that would seem to undermine the idea that, you don't need police to hold down the fort. So, he's just going to have rampant theft. I don't understand how he can manage that. That's number one. And number two, it seems like he would be usurping mayoral power to contravene the Constitution. You cannot, how is it possible or legal to try to implement another form of government in an American city? Because that's essentially what he's doing. It's a Marxist principle. How does this all work?
It doesn't work. You just take money from others and then you steal it from them and then you give it to the people apparently that you just like. There's the difference. I don't know what other way to say it. Like, that's how this works.
Well, what would be his explanation? I mean, how is he? I mean, sooner or later, someone's going to have to.
Hold on. This is the same guy that has said that he wants to take away private property. He wants to fix the rate you're allowed to charge for rent. He wants to, again, take companies and take away money from wealthy individuals. He wants to run off the, quote, millionaires and billionaires. So, I mean, I really don't know. Any other way to put it is just we're Robin Hooding. We're gonna go after the poor, or go after the rich, I'd say, and give to the poor. That's their whole thing. Like, there's nothing else. That's it. If you pass it locally, well, if you pass it locally, and this is the part that's scary. If you do a local ordinance, for example, and it's local, and the people vote for you and they agree with it, it's going to be extremely hard to say no, right? Like, this is it. Can you tax people at high rates? Yes. Can you do rent control? Yes, you can. There's a lot of local governments have a lot of power to do things like this. So, yeah, a lot of what he's saying I don't think is illegal as long as they pass it the right way. That and look, I also go back to what I said earlier on crime in all these cities. One of the things Democrats do is they decide that the easiest way to continue to hold power is to get rid of their political adversaries, to get rid of their political enemies. And the reason why they get rid of their adversaries and their enemies is actually pretty simple. They do it because then no one's up against them. If all the people that vote against you don't stay and fight you, they just leave and disappear. And that's what they seem to be doing often in these liberal cities. Like, how many parents want their kid in a failing school in a high-crime neighborhood where you can be killed just by being outside playing, or you can get shot by a stray bullet sleeping in your bed? Like, there's a lot of people, okay? There is a lot of people that as soon as they have the means to get out, they're going to get out. They're going to get out as fast as they can. And they're like, we don't care if you move. That's just one less person that's going to be voting against me, that's going to be advocating for policies that I don't like. I don't think these guys care if everyone runs away. It's what they want to happen. And it's part of, I think, their game plan moving forward is that we will eliminate any of our political threats. We will eliminate the people with money. We'll eliminate the people that are out there that we can't stand so that we control power. It's easier now than ever for a liberal Democrat with no resume, okay, to get elected. It is easier now than it's ever been in these hardcore leftist, high-crime, high-poverty cities because the same voters got out. They're getting out as soon as they have the financial means to do it. They run out of these cities. Why do you think so many of these liberal cities have suburbs that are extremely safe and extremely conservative? Because when you have the means, you say, I'm out of here. I'm out of the crime. I'm out of the poverty. I'm out of these liberals. I'm out. I'm done. I'm moving. I'm running. I'm gone. Goodbye. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But Democrats don't want to rule great cities. They want to dictate to disaster cities. Detroit, Baltimore, New Orleans, Memphis, D.C., the list goes on. What do they all have in common? They have total control of the local government. And that's what they're there for. They're there for the control. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. It is nice to have you with us. Donald Trump treating police and the National Guard to dinner while thanking them for the D.C. crime cleanup. President Trump doing what Trump does, bringing pizza and hamburgers for members of law enforcement at the National Guard on Thursday and saying thank you for cracking down on crime and keeping Americans safe. Trump accompanied the Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. He met with law enforcement from various agencies, ranging from the U.S. Marshals Service to the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department at the United States Park Police Headquarters. According to the White House press pool reports we're now seeing. Trump commented on just how amazing the officers are for doing what he said was an amazing job since he took federal control of the city due to out-of-control crime. The president also making it clear to law enforcement saying this, I just want to thank everybody very much for being here. We've had some incredible results. It's like a different place. It's like a different city. It's the capital. It's going to be the best in the world. He said, we appreciate you. And the numbers are down like we wouldn't believe. But we believe it, he said. We've had some incredible results. It's like a different place. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, also noted there has been a 35% drop in violent crime and a 50% drop in robberies in the first 9 days since Trump took federal control of law enforcement. Trump also emphasized that his efforts to restore D.C. to greatness will not end with a crime crackdown. He will seek money from Congress to spruce up the city. He said, quote, we're going to do what we're doing with law enforcement. And very importantly, also, we're going to physically do it. We're going back to Congress for some money. And we're going to redo a lot of the pavement, a lot of the medians, a lot of the graffiti, all coming off real fast. We're going to be not so much building. It's going to be cleaning and fixing and redoing and putting brand new services down on our roads and our streets, he added. Trump brought White House burgers and pizza from a, quote, undisclosed business for the members of law enforcement in attendance. He said, we'll eat, and I'll eat with you. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to celebrate. But then we're going to get back to work, and we're going to take care of these criminals. We're going to put them where they have to be. Burgum also celebrating the president, saying, quote, thank you for bringing respect back to law enforcement professionals. Bondi commended law enforcement officers for working midnights every night because they love our country, they love our city, and the president. Trump then returned to the White House after praising law enforcement, something that Democrats apparently could never, ever bring themselves to actually do. Why? Because they hate police, they hate law and order, they love the criminals, the drug dealers, the gangbangers, the illegal immigrants. And if you want to know why this country is in such a mess, look at any Democratic city in America. And if you want to know why so many cities that are safe have conservative leaders, well, imagine if Donald Trump got to do this in other major cities as well. Let me get to your phone calls. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Let me go to James, line 3 in South Carolina. Welcome. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hi, James.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to point out the fact that this is yet another example of how much of a genius our president, Donald Trump, is. The capital of our great nation should be a shining example for the rest of this country. If the capital's filth, then why does any other city or state in our country have any obligation to do any better or be even close? You know, back in the day, if we had an invasion, God forbid, or anything crazy went down as far as a war, and they take the capital, it's over. That's like checkmate. That's our capital. And we have these criminals infringing upon the capital, moving in, closer and closer every day. They would be so easy to take it if they had a couple sleeper cells in there. It would be very easy. And that's unbelievable. What needs to happen is he needs to start there, and I think that's why he started there, because it's our capital. And once he finishes there, I absolutely agree with the question you asked earlier in the night. He needs to go city by city, state by state, and clean these criminals out of here.
Well, and this is the reason why I think these numbers are just so important. They are just so important because they prove what we've been saying for a long time, right? Like they prove that law and order, when put in action, can have a massive impact, not in 6 months, not in a year, not in 3 years, but now immediately when it's done and surged the right way. I think this is going to be extremely hard for now governors and mayors to look at their citizens and say, I care more about politics than I care about saving your life or the lives of your loved ones or this city. That's our newest problem. That's our biggest problem. It's the scariest part of all with this. It's the worst part of it, is that this is happening. I go back to another story that actually was really interesting. And it was one that was up earlier today, and they were trying to use it like it was a story that was negative. And it's that Donald Trump is apparently preparing in a very quiet but a very real way to use the military to go after terrorist organizations that have been, or I should say, cartels that have been designated as terrorist organizations. And there was like this woke liberal that like was freaking out over this, acting like he was like exposing Donald Trump. And it made me laugh. I'm going to talk about it coming up because it really did. It made me laugh. It was funny. I'm like, this is good news. This isn't bad news. This is great news. I'm going to have that for you coming up next. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin says today what the backbenchers will repeat tomorrow. Call Mark at 877-381-3811.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. It is good to be with you. You got to love the media sometimes. And I'm going to post this article up so that you guys can see it and read it for yourself, okay? Because this one just made me laugh. So, I don't know if you guys, back in the day when I started doing radio, Mr. Producer, will you back me up on this, please? Back in the day when we started radio, what was the first website we used to go check for show prep? Drudge. You're laughing, right? Okay, see, this is how you know we're real radio geeks, all right? So, like, back in the day, when I started in radio, I was 12 years old. True story. I would go to a place in Memphis called the Tobacco Corner. They sold cigars, tobacco, fine pens, and, like, legit stacks of, like, major newspapers. So they'd have, like, the USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, LA Times, Washington Times. And it was like the one place in Memphis where you could get all the newspapers. Now, before the internet, when I was 12, 13, 14, like, you had to get real newspapers. And I remember getting Time Magazine and Newsweek and stuff like that to get show prep. Then the internet happened with dial-up, and Drudge Report happened, and it was like, bam. Like, Drudge Report became a thing because of, like, Monica Lewinsky hooking up with Bill Clinton, right? I did not have sexual relations with that woman. And he was the one that got it out there, broke it, bam, the rest is history. Now, I don't know what the hell's happened to the Drudge Report, Matt Drudge, but, like, it's now, how would you describe it, Mr. Producer? Like, radical liberal propaganda? Like, hate Trump? Like, if you hate Trump, that's what it is now. I used to, like, it was like the Bible of like, prep for radio shows in America. It was like where you started as an aggregate every day. And you watched it all throughout your show. I mean, Rush Limbaugh used it like crazy. Mark used it like crazy. Like, it was just staple. If you weren't a good talk shows if you weren't checking it. I will go months now without even looking at it. It's a it doesn't even matter in the talk radio world now. Would you agree with that, Mr. Producer? Like, how often do you check it? Don't lie. Tell the truth. You haven't seen it in years. Okay, so there you go. I'm not lying. Now, there was a story yesterday. I would not have seen it because I don't check Drudge, but someone sent it to me, and they're like, what's amazing is this is the front page of Drudge, and they're acting like this article is like a bad thing for Donald Trump, like, and I gotcha with Donald Trump. Here is the headline. It says, military preparing attacks on Mexican cartels. Like, right away, I'm jacked. Like, that's like political Viagra to my ears. The guy's website, it's like called Clip. It's Ken Klippenstein or Stein or whatever the hell his name is. And then the subtitle of it was like secret orders target cartels as the new terrorists. I'm like, hell yeah. Like now I'm getting really excited. I'm going to read for you part of this article just so you understand. Now, again, Democrats actually believe what I'm reading to you is like bad news, like damning news to Donald Trump and the Trump administration. And I'm like, I'm jacked. Quote, the Trump administration has directed the military to prepare for lethal strikes, like we're going to kill them, folks, against cartel targets inside of Mexico. Hell yes, that's me. 3 military sources are telling us. The top secret planning order issued in late spring directs a Northern Command called NORTHCOM to manage the attack plans, which are to be ready by mid-September. Though U.S.-Mexico military relations are broad and cooperative, any military action south of the border is considered extremely sensitive for both Washington and the Mexican federal government and is rarely discussed in public. Quote, not only is Donald Trump uniquely focused on transnational criminal organizations, the official name for cartels having designated them terrorists in one of his first executive orders, but he has shown himself to be willing to take unilateral action despite potentially negative political ramifications, says one senior intelligence official. Again, like they're acting like this is bad news. I'm like, this is amazing. Like this is what I voted for. Like direct line this into my veins. He and other sources say the military action could be unilateral. That is, without the involvement or approval of the Mexican government. Well, hell yeah, because the Mexican government's totally corrupted by the cartels. Like the Mexican government is the cartels' bagmen running the country. Like, just understand that. Quote, the unprecedented order was discussed at a July meeting at NORTHCOM headquarters in Colorado Springs that was led by Colby Jenkins, the unconfirmed Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and Low-Intensity Conflict. Within days, General Gregory Gullett, commander of NORTHCOM, hosted the 2 highest-ranking Mexican military officials. And they're like, wow, this is a big deal, right? The Secretary of National Defense and Admiral, a guy by the name of Angeles, the Secretary of the Navy from Mexico. Quote, today more than ever, the challenges we face to man a joint, coordinated, and adaptive response is what Morales, all right, the Secretary of the Navy for Mexico, said after the Colorado visit, trying to impress upon Pentagon and military leaders that any potential operation be conducted by the 2 nations together. Now, here's the problem. If you do it with Mexico, I promise you any intel you give them about where we're going to hit or what we're going to hit or who we're going after will immediately be leaked to the cartel members, to these terrorist organizations. They want to work with us because they want to warn the people that give them their money and power that, hey, you're about to be exterminated. Back to the article. To address extreme political sensitivities and to honor Mexico's sovereignty, operations inside Mexico have previously been conducted by the CIA and the Joint Special Operations Command, known as JSOC. It's the clandestine arm of the U.S. military that has been involved in targeted killings, in the Middle East. The New York Times has reported that the CIA has increased reconnaissance operations over Mexico with its own drones, other indicators of increased preparations for operations. Now, why is this happening? I can answer that question because the president's ordering it. The president's saying this is what we're doing. NORTHCOM was previously sidelined in any Mexico planning. The conventional special operations component mostly involved in joint training with their Mexican counterparts and non-lethal missions, which are meaningless, such as at-sea, interactions of shipments. They say, but now it is being tasked to be the synchronizer of a far larger magnitude operation and possible attacks. That is what senior intelligence officials are saying. Now, is anything I've told you so far sound bad to you, or does it all sound like amazing? Because for me, this is incredible. One reason is that prospective attacks, the article says, have also have to coordinate with the intelligence community at large, the FBI and various Homeland Security agencies such as Border Patrol and ICE, who all now are focused on Mexico and are conducting their own operations inside Mexico. NORTHCOM is already involved in Mexico in a host of ways, including in combating the cartels. That is what General Galeas alluded to in a recent testimony to Congress, where he said that his cooperation with Mexico is already closer than at any point in history. Okay, again, is there anything that I've just told you that sounds like bad news? Because they wrote this article like this is like Donald Trump going rogue. I'm like, no. This is literally what I voted for. I want to go to the testimony before Congress, okay? Quote, it is already apparent to military relationships, but the relationship between the United States and Mexico is robust and expanding it as both nations address the challenges posed by common threats to our citizens and shared interests. These bonds between U.S. Northcom and our Mexican military partners are broad, resilient, and focused on expanding or combating combined capability to defend and secure North America from the Madrid state and non-state threats. Countering competitor influence in the region remains a key priority for U.S. Northcom and our Mexican military partners. And as a direct result, the U.S. and Mexican militaries are more operationally combative and compatible than at any point in our shared history. Okay, so let's be clear about what they're saying. These guys that are woke going up there to Congress like, hey, you need to make sure Mexico's involved in like everything we do, because if we don't, they may find other allies. So in other words, it's better to live in the hell we have now where the cartels run the country than actually go after the cartels and kill them. And we should do that because they're a terrorist organization who is also killing Americans. Like, make no mistake over it. And what they're saying is, well, hold on a second. The other side of this is we got to counter Chinese influence and investment in Mexico. We got to thwart Russian influence in operations. We got to stem the flow of drugs and the chemicals and even weapons of mass destruction components that are coming through Mexico. And the only way to do that, they say, is if we just accept the corruption in the cartels of Mexico. I would argue, screw you. Okay? If Mexico wants to run to Russia, knock yourself out, and we'll knock out all the cartels. And you'll lose your power. Chinese influence, yes, that's real. But I'd rather not have Americans dying at record numbers from fentanyl overdoses, and that's coming where? From China and then through Mexico into America. Now, Northcom, we've also been told, is tasked its subordinate Special Operations Command called SOC North to undertake, quote, operational preparations of the battle space inside Mexico, set the stage for, quote, future military operations, and to prepare cartel-related targeting packages for potential strikes and direct action attacks on the ground against high-value individuals, compounds, and supply chain targets associated in particular with the Sinaloa cartel and the New Generation cartel. Direct attacks could also involve air and drone strikes. Like this, again, they're acting like this is bad news. This is what I voted for. Quote, direct action is a term special operations forces use to describe small-scale offensive operations carried out by Army Green Berets, Navy SEALs, or Marine Corps raiders. Think of the airstrikes on Iran this summer as kind of a direct action against discrete targets with a strategic or national purpose. That's exactly what Donald Trump is now advocating for as well. The article says that there is one major difference when it comes to Mexico. The political sensitivities involved. So they're telling you don't do it. Unlike Iran, Mexico is a rich country which, of course, borders the U.S. and cooperates with it in countless ways. I don't believe that's true. All right? I just want to be clear about that. Mexico, by the way, is not a rich country. It's a poor country. That's a lie. Independence from America is a major issue domestically, not to mention the large Mexican-American population. So they're also saying don't do it because there's Americans there, and they may turn on said Americans, and so therefore that's why you shouldn't do the operations against the cartels. This report is truly hysterical to me because I read it and I'm like, give me more of this every day, please. Like, give me more of this each and every day. Okay, like I want this. It's what I voted for. Donald Trump securing this country and going after the cartels, you couldn't say anything that would get me more excited than what is in this report. And they're acting like this is some sort of just horrible moment, horrible thing. It is not. It's the greatest thing I've ever heard. And I think most Americans voted for this and support it. 1-877 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. And by the way, that last story that I just talked about, where they think it's bad news Donald Trump's like when to blow up cartels and their leaders, which I think is just amazing. I'll put it up on X. I'll also throw it in my podcast tomorrow morning, Ben Ferguson Podcast. You can listen to it there. And it'll be up on the Mark Levin Podcast as well. That story, again, like no one's talking about it. And then like they break the news like, oh my gosh, it's bad news. Donald Trump wants to kill like domestic or people that are in terrorist organizations that are cartels in Mexico. Like, yes, please. Like, can I get some more of that? Like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I just can't believe that you'd be in favor of it. These people are killing so many people in America, so many young people. Like, they just don't care. The number one killer of younger people in this country right now is what? Fentanyl, folks. It is the fentanyl that is killing. That's what's doing it. 1-800-47, I say 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Let's get to some of your phone calls here. Let me go to Larry, line 5 in Florida. Welcome. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hi.
Yeah, man, good to talk to you. Hey, I had a point I wanted to make about the immigration, and especially about these Republicans, how they seem to jump on the bandwagon every time something good happens. But if you lived in a bad neighborhood or whatever where crime was a problem, and the thieves were telling you they're going to break in and steal break in your house and steal your stuff, so you get a security system to watch your house. And then all of a sudden the security system is derelict in their duties, and the thieves come and steal your stuff. Who are you going to really get mad at? The ones who told you they were going to do it, or the ones who promised to protect you? And I can actually tie this into another point that you talked about tonight, which is the Washington D.C., where they brought in the National Guard or whatever, the National Police, whatever. The Republicans gave us the Patriot Act, and then we all went along with it, and we thought, boy, this is so great. And then all of a sudden, then a Democrat came into office, and they flipped it over, and they used it on us. How are we not going to be setting our own stuff up?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about what you're talking about there with the Patriot Act? There were a lot of conservatives that actually were against it and said no to it because it was like, look, I understand the intent here after 9/11, but this will be used against us one day, and Democrats will abuse the power. And by the way, we saw it when they were spying on Trump's campaign. We saw it when they were spying on Donald Trump's campaign, and they abused it with the FISA court. I mean, with the FISA court, like they abused the hell out of it. And they're like, yeah, we'll just go in there and like get a FISA court. It'll be no big deal. Like we'll just get it. We'll just do it. We'll get it. It'll be fine. No big deal. Bam. Then we saw the massive abuse, and it was abuse day in and day out. When they knew, and then, but look, when you're dealing with a deep state that's as corrupt as this deep state, like they could do whatever they wanted to. They could get away with anything they wanted to. It didn't matter. It just didn't matter. Larry, I appreciate the phone call. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. By the way, question I have, and I want you to think about this. If you woke up tomorrow morning, we found out there was like a massive attack on the Sinaloa cartel, and like a bunch of its leaders were just blown up. Would any of you be sad about that? Because I sure as hell wouldn't. Like, I'd be like, again, this is what I voted for. This is exactly why I voted for the President of the United States of America. Because I'm tired of us being the greatest country in the world run by a bunch of wusses. I want to go kill terrorists. Like, I love, on my bucket list, if you ask me what's on my bucket list in life, it's true. It's to kill a terrorist. It's on my bucket list. Like, I would sign up for that. Because I love this country. God bless you guys. Follow me on X, Ben Ferguson Show. On Instagram, Ben Ferguson Podcast. And download my podcast as well, the Ben Ferguson Podcast. Mark Levin will be back with you tomorrow.